What's up everyone, Zero here. So I wanted to make a follow-up video to my campaign review video. It seemed to go really well and people seem to enjoy it, so I just wanted to give you guys a follow-up on just where I ended up with the classes and kind of how I feel they excel in the endgame and some of the endgame mechanics. Just a precursor, this is obviously just my anecdotal experience. I am not claiming that these are the best or most OP builds. I don't want anybody to think or get that impression. If you guys find this content helpful at all, please consider subscribing to the channel. And with that, let's get into it. So first up, I wanted to go with the Invoker. The Invoker, what I ended up doing is I just ended up going with the Ice Strike, Charge Staff, Tempest Bell. I'm using Combat Frenzy to generate the power charges for Charge Staff. And I'm also using the Double Herald tech. If you guys aren't aware of what that is, you basically make your Herald of Ice shock and your Herald of Thunder freeze, and they proc off of each other. So you get these gigantic screen-wide explosions. So you essentially just walk around and one tap everything as soon as you have your charge staff up. It's pretty powerful, and once you drop your bell, it's even more crazy. This build really excels in doing things like Breach, basically all endgame mechanics, but especially in Breach, anything that you have a bunch of monsters, because once you get these, once you get the heralds to proc, everything just blows up like that. All in all, I would rank this ascendancy very, very high on the endgame list. It excels pretty much in all mapping, all breach, all ritual, all simulacrum, anything like that it does really well in. Essentially any build that uses those the double herald tech really excels in that type of content. I have played this character for 2 days, 23 hours, 22 minutes, and I really enjoyed this class. I really want to try the Acolyte of Cholula, so I will be trying that next because I've seen some pretty cool builds with that ascendancy. But you should definitely give the Invoker a shot if you haven't tried already. Next up is the Stormweaver. Now I did try the Archmage Spark build, but I ended up with something a little bit different on this class. I ended up going with the cast on minion death Comet build because this is one of the meta builds that have not been nerfed yet. So what this does is it uses Fireball to proc ignites and to proc raging spirits, which also proc ignites. And then with this amulet, the Fire Flower, the tooltip says that you take 120 fire damage when you ignite an enemy, but if you pair that with this keystone passive right here, that bonus applies to your minions. So what you're doing is you're procking the raging spirits, they're igniting the enemies, and then when they die, they proc the comets to come down. So this uses Eye of Winter for critical weakness, the Fireball to proc the raging spirits proc the ignites, they die, and then they proc Comet and Frostwall. The Frostwall kind of keeps them caged in. This build excels in all content. It doesn't matter what you're doing. I mean, everything just dies. This build is so unbelievably broken. As you can tell, everything just doesn't even stand a chance with this. The one thing that you really have to worry about with this build is mana management, but to be honest with you, I haven't had that much of an issue with it, and I have very minimal investment in this character. This build is a lot of fun. This definitely excels in everything. Breach, ritual, simulacrum, mapping. I would definitely advise you to give this a shot. Definitely a really fun build. And I have played this class for 1 day, 18 hours, 23 minutes. Definitely not as long as the Monk, but I've had a blast playing it. Next up is my Pathfinder. And what I ended up doing was switching from Gas Arrow over to a little bit of a different build. I did make a separate video on this. You guys can check that out. What it does is it uses the Corpse Wade boots, because these are going to proc Decompose whenever you take a step. Any corpses that are on the ground are going to proc that. The tooltip on Decompose, as you can see, it uses 39% of the corpse's maximum life to apply poison. So I am using Decompose. It's using Poisonous Concoction because you do need something to start the kill chain. It's using Eye of Winter for critical weakness. And then for single target damage, I am using a weapon swap with Skeletal Brutes. So what I can do is I can just swap my weapon. The skeletal brutes die and they start the clouds. So I can just do that if I don't have any enemies that are already dead, because it does rely on corpses. Other than that, I'm just using Blasphemy to apply Despair and Withering Presence, and I'm also applying Temporal Chains. As you can see here, once the kill chain just starts, you just apply your Eye of Winter for critical weakness, and everything that runs into the poison cloud is just going to die. This can do all content as high as you want to go, because the more max life that the mobs have, the faster they die. So this is a great build. You can play this type of build on multiple different ascendancies. I find Pathfinder is the best just because of the poison stacks. But out of all the builds that I've played, this is probably my #1 favorite so far. So you should definitely give this a shot. I was playing a Deadeye, but I was using the Lightning Arrow and the Lightning Rod, and that was also using the cast on shock with ball lightning. That did get nerfed, so I am going to switch over to the ice shot. Is also going to use the same double herald tech as the monk was using. I have played this build for 4 days, 6 hours, and 47 minutes. So by far I played this one the longest, because this one was the most enjoyable for me. Next up, we have the Infernalist. I ended up going with Raging Spirits, Snipers, Arsonist, Flame Wall, obviously, and Flammability as the curse. This is a very, very laid-back build. You pretty much can just cruise through any content with this. However, this does not do as well as the other builds do with, like, Breach or with Delirium, just because it does take a while for the minions to kill sometimes. So if they're getting rushed, they will get overwhelmed. So it's not the best for Breach, but it's definitely a comfortable mapper. If you want to just kick back, I essentially feel immortal because of how much the energy shield that the Ascendancy gives you. And I'm also using Ghost Wraith, so I have a ton of energy shield. It feels very, very comfortable. Definitely just a chill build. If you want to kick back and do other things, you can kind of just hang out in the back and let your minions do all the work. I have played this build for 2 days, 13 hours, and 49 minutes, so definitely not as much as the Pathfinder, but it's up there. Definitely enjoyed this build a lot. Should definitely give it a shot. Next up, we have the Warbringer. I was struggling to find a build for this class, and I was definitely able to find one. This Seismic Cry build is a lot of fun. Essentially what it does is it uses Seismic Cry with Corrupting Cry. This applies Corrupted Blood, and it deals 25% of your strength as physical damage. So the more strength that you have, the better off the more damage you are going to do. So you want to stack strength. I'm also doing a hybrid of Shockwave totems and Ancestral Warrior totems. I have not put enough investment into this character yet, but I plan on doing so once I level up my other Titan. But as you can see, this is very, very tanky. Not really in danger of dying at any point in time. I do need to switch over to some energy shield on this character, but it just pushes everything back and everything dies. You lay down your totem and then you just keep crying. Once I'm able to stack more strength on this character, it's going to do a ton of damage because it just lays down those corrupted blood stacks. This is a very, very comfortable play style as well. This will definitely excel in something like Breach or anything else where you're getting swarmed. This will also probably be really good to run Breach Stones with, now that I think about it, because it does use shield charge, and then you just shield charge in and you Corrupted Cry and everything dies. Very, very fun. However, I have not leveled that build as much as the other ones. I will be doing that, and obviously if anything changes, I will update you guys. Last and certainly not least is the Witchunter. The reason why I did this one last is just because it hasn't really changed since the campaign. I'm pretty much running the same exact build. I'm doing Gas Grenade, mess with Artillery Ballista a little bit, but that didn't really work out. But it's using the same stuff. I'm using Oil Grenade, Explosive Shot, Gas Grenade, Flash Grenade, same stuff. I definitely need to work on the defenses on this character a little bit. The only problem with this type of build is it's very good for mapping, but it doesn't excel really in doing any of the other endgame content like Breach. Just because of the delayed damage. It can survive it, and it does okay, but it's not the best, right? Like if you saw the Pathfinder, anything that just rushes into the clouds, everything just dies. But I'm essentially just doing the same thing I was doing in the campaign. This does a lot of damage as well, and I haven't really invested that much into it. All in all, I have played this for 1 day, 10 hours, 9 minutes, and 47 seconds. This is probably the least played build, but I still like it. I enjoy this class. I am going to do a Gemling Legionnaire stat stacker eventually. I don't know if you guys have watched Converse, but he has a really good Gemling setup with Spark, so you should definitely check that out. I'll link his video in the description below. So that definitely might be something you want to check out. I know there are some other Witchunter builds I am going to play around with, so I will make a video if I find anything that works a lot better than this. Other than that, I am leveling a Frostbomb Titan that I'm going to go with Archmage on, so I will make a video just to let you guys know how that ended up. I hope that helps you guys out, maybe gave you guys some ideas on what to play if you're looking to play some stuff and scale it into the endgame. So if that video helped you out at all, please consider subscribing to the channel. Stay tuned, I got plenty more to come. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.